are you? I'm Zita, your guiding luminary. Thank you for joining us today. I am happy to have you. I have a special guest, Sandra McEllis. She, like I, is a nice little YouTube presenter, and she is also an empath and a healer. So we had met a little while ago, and we thought, wow, we get along so well. It'd be so nice to do a video together and to share what we can help, how we can help you, and what motivates us to do what we do. So welcome, Sandra.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me. And welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. And my special guest is Arita Bensinski. You didn't expect that, did you? Because we are kind of doing like a dual interview with each other, and we're both going to post out. And so instead of messing up on everything, we're just introducing each other. So, yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure to have you and have another soul sister to share this journey, which is quite challenging at the very least, as we all know. The world's gone to shambles sometimes, but we try to pick things up and move things forward. So how have you been? How are you doing?
I've been doing okay. You said something that's really important. The world's gone shambles. The world has been in shambles. We're just waking up to realize that the systems just aren't working anymore. And the awareness to the programming of the systems, which is a shock to our own physical system to realize that, holy moly, we've been controlled. So, really for me, I just bob and weave the best I can and get as much air as I can and remind myself to take in some air. And, hopefully some of that air has some shelf life for when I'm shallow breathing. But, it's been an interesting number of years. I personally have been waiting for a lot of this to occur. I think in 2017, 18, I knew something was coming, but I just didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And again, spirit won't let me get too far ahead of myself. So, you got to just sort of lay in waiting, so to speak, but not with the anticipation of being trampled. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I find that for myself, because I live in Montreal, Canada, and it's really cold here, and it's barely warm enough to walk around without a coat still. I find it really hard because going for a walk or to meditate or to ground yourself, it's still not easy, but that's something that works for me. And I encourage that a lot to my clients. And if we can't ground, I suggest my clients to hug some trees. And to make it fun, what I've done is I give them an objective to hug 3 to 5 trees and give them names. And people really enjoy doing that. And that's a way for people to calm down, because I've noticed that there's this anxiety level going around, and it's all this energy that's pumped up. So people are lost, they don't know what to do. So I try to help them as a life coach by providing them tools and suggestions, either taking an Epsom bath, meditate, go for a walk, or go see some friends, whatever that works for them, just to bring down the anxiety level. And you had a beautiful video you did last week where you specifically addressed the anxiety that you've been feeling, and that's been coming around with your clients as well. Perhaps you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I'm not one to I've always had, like, I'll get nervous or embarrassed or turn red, those kind of like mild anxiety things, or maybe not feeling like I fit into a group. But I learned that was empathic. That was my way of coming in and filtering through the energy of where I belonged in the room. And then about a year ago, not even, I started waking up to not being able to breathe, heart palpitations, feeling really hot, not knowing what was going on, and wondering, did I hide stress somewhere? What was happening? And going downstairs to a cooler area, back upstairs to my room, back and forth, and then hearing things and then seeing things. So this went on in different, how do I want to say it? Some could be a level 7, some could have been a level 10, some could have been a level 4 anxiety, right? And I went through periods of doing that until I really started asking spirit, what is happening here? And basically they were saying that higher frequencies of energies were being done and worked upon while I was supposed to be in sleep state. but for whatever reason, I was coming out of it. And then I'm left with this, like,
Yes.
what is going on? And so I accepted that answer, but then they showed me the answer also, because then all of a sudden I would be laying still or maybe going to prop myself up, lay down for a meditation with a blindfold on. I could feel like I wasn't quite in my body, like, and it was this, or I would be laying, the head at the headboard, but my body felt like it was doing this,
Oh,
like arms on a clock, like it was moving, and I could feel it. And I've gone through off and on for years, little dizzy spells. So sometimes I used to just grab onto something really like, oh no, but I learned that that was happening internally. I physically wasn't going to fall down, so I knew to breathe through it and just allow this energy, because the more I was able to allow it, I didn't create resistance, which made it a hyper anxiety level where it's like I couldn't function. And so I do know that some people are also going through this during the day. And a lot of these nervous system anxieties are coming from a lot of different directions. And some of us are predispositioned to be a lot more sensitive than others,
yes.
in that scale. And so, a lot of our younger folk who can speak to the other side or have different energies coming through them might not understand it, and they don't have support systems, so they shut it down and they have a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
There's a lot of medication going on between our younger generations. There's a lot in our older generations as well. But if we could just stop, drop, sit, connect with our breath and ask ourselves, I do not consent, first off, and then ask ourselves, excuse me, very bad allergy season here right now. Hold on. Ask ourselves to bring in the God source
Yes.
and align with that. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And allow ourselves to just be in that space where we have control over our physical, mental, emotional, etheric body,
Yes.
period. We have that control. We have that power to have that control is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We don't need to run to the brown bottles and I mean any bottle, now that they just said that. My spirit just said any bottle.
Yeah.
Any bottle. It could be like this, it could be poured in your hand and take it. We're always looking for that quick fix because we've been programmed in the last 30, 40, 50 years that that's the way to go.
Yeah, now that's the solution.
There's a pill for every diagnosis, and if there isn't a diagnosis yet, start on the pills now. We'll figure out a diagnosis later.
Or they will create one.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
One thing I've noticed is I have a lot of clients who come to me, they are very anxious, and well, we know anxiety is based because we're looking into the future to see what the future will hold and bring for us, whereas depression is more of a past kind of issue.
Mhm.
So what I've been counseling my clients is to try to focus on the present, and by giving them some tools to relax them and to live in the moment, because I have a lot of people who are going through career transitions or looking to semi-retire, retire, or starting their business. So they're going through that leap of faith to do something new, and there's this anxiety that's developing with them.
Right.
So one of the things I do is I do read oracle cards as well to help guide them in what to do now and not so much for the future. But even though they come to see me with the intent of knowing what to do in the future, and it's funny, the last 2 or 3 months, the readings I've been getting for virtually, I'd say a good 80% of my clients is not telling them what to do in the future, but what to do with their now and what's been in the past that keeps coming into the now, and they keep pushing it away. So they don't always want to hear what I'm telling them because they realize there's work to do that they have to do, and that there isn't like rainbows and unicorns waiting for them tomorrow, that they need to work on some of the issues that has been plaguing them from this life and perhaps other lives that they haven't resolved. unresolved conflicts with parents or siblings or jobs or partners or even work. And a lot of that is from the past. So I could see sometimes the disappointment in their eyes that, like, I'm not going to tell them they're getting married tomorrow or they're going to have a bag of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I tell them, they got to watch their approach to money and finances and their loved ones, and they have to resolve things they had with their parents. But once they understand that resolving those past issues will make their day today better, although there's that shadow work they have to do, which brings them into a difficult place because they finally have to face the challenges they came here to do, right? Because
Yes.
Earth is a school. So once they have that grasped a little better, they work on the issue. I work with them usually over a few sessions to guide them with the goal that every session there's a specific target that they have to address. And when I meet with them, I draw a card for them, and then we focus on that. And whether or not they want to hear it, this is what the spirit or the universe is trying to tell them and to share with them, that they need to focus. And it's amazing how every time I do that for a client reading or a session, it becomes topic of the actual meeting, and it resolves so many of their issues, and that I give them homework and we see each other again. So it's been a very interesting 3 months. I found in 2021 it was more about love relationships, staying calm and stuff like that, but now everything's been going into the past. So it seems like we need to resolve the past so we can go into this new earth. And people are resisting that change. Have you had that experience in your own energy healing
Sure,
practice?
sure.
Yeah.
I understand it a lot because I think I've walked it myself. Spirit has had me come in and sort of experience a lot of things that I'm going to be able to help others overcome, or at least step properly on the path so they have a stronger footing. We're programmed to look at for everything, all the answers outside of ourselves. That's what we're programmed to do. So, we're breaking through that programming. There are plenty of rainbows and unicorns in your present moment. You don't have to go too far in the future to see them. And if you're able to really commit to taking action, to find out who you are on all levels, you kind of have to rewind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like when you're in business and a project just doesn't work out. What do you do? The saying is we go back to the drawing board and we look at everything again, and we try to establish a stronger footing so that this doesn't occur again, right? So, that's what we have to do in our life. So, we are a 24/7 surveillance camera, whether we're aware of it or not aware of it, whether we remember something fully or don't remember something fully, it's all stored in there. And so, if people don't want to go back lifetimes, I tell them lifetime to you could be 2 weeks ago, could be 2 months ago, could be 20 years ago. Who gives a crap? Are you willing to sit down and really trust a practitioner to help you get into a calm space?
Mm-hmm.
And let's sift through, and spirit will bring through what's important to you now. And so I do see that a lot, but in order to get to your future, that's like playing a board game and just going straight to I'm finished, I'm done, I won.
Exactly.
Or I'm finished. And it's like where you missed all of the interactions and relationships to the board and you, and to the people that you're playing with, right? So whether you finished or not, it's the feelings that are developed through that. And that's really what we're being taught to do, is to tap back into the feelings and to get out of just the thought, right?
Right.
And then we're also taught to program that the thought and the feeling are different, because the feelings really come from the emotional body. And so why do certain feelings trigger us more than others? And we get to a point in our life, especially older, it's like, I can see a pattern that I have sabotaged this, or I'm not sure what's happening. I've done everything right and I don't understand. I need someone to get their crystal ball out, play their cards, and tell me what's happening moving forward, when the answer is no. Let's bring it back to present moment. Let's connect with breath. And then let's get in here and let's do a little bit of a rewind and a releasing. Because we're adults, right? And we can look back at something that we might have been so pissed at our mother or father for doing at the time. But if you were to be able to go back and hover above that situation, listen to what is happening, you'll probably come out of there with a completely different perspective, feeling,
Absolutely.
whatever. And then what happens with that? Oh, wow, I carried that around. I didn't even know I really had that much resistance. And all those things that create the resistance and the blockages don't allow for a full relationship
Yes.
with others through being in fullness of yourself.
Yeah, and what I find works for me is when I'm with my clients and an issue comes up, I try to have them understand that whatever happened, that it was meant to be, because we agreed to come here to learn, to grow as souls. And I try to bring, like you, bring them back into the situation, but I also bring them to the attention that if something happened to them as a child, their memory of that event is childlike. I'm not going to say childish because that's not
Mhm,
the right word, it's
mhm.
childlike. So now when they go back as the parent, the woman or the father or the man they are today, they can go back and look at that as an adult. And like you said, to sit there and observe the situation. And now that you're an adult with life experience, how much different would you have done things, you know? And I also bring to their attention that their parents are human beings, or the boss or whatever happened, they're human beings and they make mistakes as well. And if those parents or those people never resolve their issues, they're acting in childish ways because they didn't use their deeper soul perspective of the healing process that would bring them to this adult perspective looking back. So once you do that, I find a lot of the clients kind of, oh, yeah, you're right. I never looked at it that way, because that forces them to get out of that victim mentality, an observer, and someone who's proactive to do something about it. And my formula is very simple: look at the hurt, observe it, forgive it, heal from it, and move forward. And the first hurt is always the hardest because it's the first one that is prominent, and then it's the hardest to observe it independently, to heal from it, to forgive yourself and the person or situation that may have hurt you, to prepare you to move forward. But I guarantee you, after you do this 3 to 5 times, you snap your fingers, you fall into that stop, drop, and go kind of attitude. You go back, you observe, you heal, you forgive, and you move forward. And once you know that formula, it goes woof. And I find you can see the energies even in the clients when they listen to the new perspective. You can almost see they change their body posture, and I could almost see their energy changing, their facial expression, the awareness, and the gratitude they feel that they have had this aha moment that is life changing. And I find that helps them tremendously to move forward. But I always warn them, when you think you've done it and it's all safe to go on with your life, the universe is going to test you. So they're going to bring you another person, another situation, and to see how you react. And that's when you got to be very conscious, especially when you're going through that learning process, where you have to stop and take a deep breath and observe and go through that formula faster. And the minute you do it, chances are you've passed the exam, you're moving on to the next level. And it's so much fun to see. But then our life experience is that once you've done that, there's another lesson. So it's like an onion that keeps peeling and peeling and peeling. But you know what? As it peels, I find that the outer layers are dark. So imagine a dark onion, and then as you peel them, the peels get lighter and lighter. So I found with my clients, the most difficult issues always surface first.
Yes.
Because they're the ones that carry us and drag us down the most. It's the ones that keep coming up and we keep pushing back. Keep coming up, we keep pushing back. But the minute you decide, okay, I'm not going to push it, I'm going to face it, everything else that trickles after is a lot lighter. And that's why it becomes easier to go through my little formula where you look at the situation, you observe it, you heal, you forgive, you heal, and move forward. It gets easier because the layers are smaller and lighter, and that kind of goes with your spirit. So as you get closer to the center of the onion, it's where your soul resides with all of its glory and of its light. So the more you peel out, the closer you get to who your essence is, and you become calmer as a person moving forward.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And if you want to use the onion analogy, the as the onion's growing, it's getting weathered. So as it's getting weathered, it's having more protection on it, and every layer of the onion's having another layer of protection on it, and the protection becomes very, very comfortable.
Yes.
So once you start peeling that away, you're getting to serious raw vulnerability, and nobody knows really quite what to do with those kinds of feelings. So you don't jump straight into that. You've got to get the layers of this weathered protection that we have voluntarily and involuntarily placed upon ourselves. So it's our responsibility to make that decision. Are we going to stop, drop, sit, connect with the breath and take action? Or are we going to be reckless and continue with, well, if I take my hands off the steering wheel going 80, it's just meant to be. I'll hit the guardrail, but what else are you going to hit on the way out? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or you can make changes so that you're not being reckless, and because energy is sacred, and we've been taught almost to hide from it to a point where it's painful to go through. And as you and I know in our work, it can sometimes, it could be a mini sandstorm, and then it could be like, holy moly, I'm triggered everywhere. And I really love working one-on-one with people, but I have really been loving doing the Zoom because someone's in the comfort of their own home. And so I will ask the client to just stay still after we're off and just be with that energy and let what bubbles up, bubble up, and each time I can't say that it gets easier, it gets different. Each time gets different until all of a sudden you have this feeling of, I feel totally different. It's just like, wearing these things, right? I'm still having people I know, I prefer to have it on, especially the little ones. And I work with kids. So I want to have it on. I like it on. And I've had grown adults say, I prefer to have it on, and they don't know what it felt like not to have it on, but they forget to go back to before they had to wear it, right?
Correct.
So it didn't need to become an appendage. These heavy blankets that we put on ourselves for protection stuff our emotions into places where we're either going to implode in a very reckless way, or we're going to have meltdowns, or we're just going to continue till we just have fatigue and exhaustion and frustration, which is admitting that I'm freaking unhappy.
Yes.
I am not in the right relationships. There's nothing in control under my domestic home, my job, my demographics, whatever it may be. And so we're all here now to sort of support each other, to say being unhappy is okay. Because step one is saying, my life freaking sucks. I have chosen the wrong partner, but I feel like I can't get out of it, or I have relationships with my kids that are grown. I can't get out of it. Well, you can detach, you can become more within yourself and understand things with different light on situations that have gotten you to where that you are. And the key is wake up to where you are, figure out how you got here, and then before you start taking a whole bunch of steps forward and reaching out of yourself and calling someone like me or you, Zita,
right?
Hey, what's my future? Well, my future tells you sit your ass down in that chair and let's start getting some work done and deal with being able to sit still with yourself, which is difficult for most people. They don't know how to do that. They think sitting still has a remote control in its hand, or music or, you know, and our kids are just constantly have to have something.
Exactly.
So they're all security blankets to hide deep wounds from wherever, deep wounds. And those wounds have different levels and different layers. So yes, you are correct. One can go and then a lesson will be like, my guides laugh at me all the time. They're like, I can hear them.
Exactly.
She thinks she got this.
Exactly.
Oh, hold on a second. Boom. And then it's like, did she pass it? Did she pass the test or did she fail? And I talk to them just like I'm talking to you. I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Yes.
Watch how well I do it this way, you know? And other times I'm like, oh my gosh, that caught me off guard. I stunk. I didn't react very well. I didn't even respond very well, which is why I always go back to get your butt into the present moment and hear, see, sense, smell, feel all of what is around you. Everything of it, everything, good, bad, and different. I don't like labels. Just feel it. And then you'll feel your body vibrating,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
And then you're going to feel, I can actually hear my heart. I can hear things from way over there. I can feel, sense. I could taste that, taste it different. Stay in your present moment.
Yeah.
And learn to be there, I think is the big key to step number one.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that acknowledging you're not perfect would
You know,
come.
I can't
It's a big
stand that
deal for a
saying.
lot of people.
I'm sorry. I can't stand that saying of like, I'm not perfect. My world's not perfect. It's perfect is the way you choose it to be, but let it be what you chose it to be. Don't let it be what everybody else has placed upon you of what that is. That's like when you're a teenager, like, I cannot wait to get out of this house and get away from my parents. And I'm going to do this and I'm never going to do that to my kids and blah, 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 blah. And then what do? You become a creature of habit.
Exactly.
You might rebel a little bit, but then you realize, I didn't have it so bad there.
Mhm.
And then you begin to create pretty much what they've done. And then you realize you're reacting and doing things in the way that the behavior was taught to you, that you've placed in your subconscious, right?
Yep.
Now becomes conscious.
Exactly.
And so that's the way you're living your life until you wake the frick up and say, oh, I don't want to sound like that or be like that. I actually don't like the way this room has been designed. I don't like my clothes. I don't like anything. So just to be able to step forward and say, I got to change it all, but change it in a constructive way,
Absolutely.
not in a way of I'm rebelling and resisting everything that got me here, because every single moment is a lesson.
Absolutely.
If you're not in that moment, you don't know what that lesson really is. And so what could happen tomorrow and the next day based on not being present might not have been for your highest good.
Exactly.
So I think it's a real important topic that you brought up, Rita, because we're both getting these in our practice while we're also experiencing them. And being in that moment means I control of this moment, and this moment sets me up for the next moment. Now, I've lived my life like this. I have preached this for decades to my kids, to clients, to classes I've taken and classes I've given, is until I know what my moment is, I'm not going to make decisions for my next moment. And you know that saying about, oh, you know, we're the butterfly, we're the caterpillar, we've gone into the thing, we're going to go into chrysalis, we're going to fall apart, blah, 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 blah. And it was, I think about 2017, I think I've gone through this transformation a number of times in this many decades that I've been on this earth. And someone said, so where are you? You know, I'm out. I said, well, I'm out. Well, where did you go? And I said, I'm just perched on my chrysalis. I'm perched on my little nest. I'm actually looking around at availability and what I want to do before I just take off.
Yes.
And that's where I was, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. So in the last 2 years haven't taught us one thing. So we have no control over a lot of things.
Correct.
So once we learn that we have control over ourselves and it starts with us, then we begin to incorporate the changes that we need to make our next moment and our next moment for the highest good. And yes, I'm saying everybody needs to practice it, but you need to reach out to like Rita, myself, other people that are doing this from the heart center. You know, we're doing this from the heart center to help all of you get to a path, because that helps all of us be better people.
Absolutely.
This isn't just about my success or your success or someone else's success and how many viewers we have and how many clients we have and what our bank accounts look like. That's freaking irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
When somebody gets something on their own, I'm just like, I'm behind the scenes like,
Yes. When you see that
one more,
aha
baby,
moment,
one
yeah,
more.
yeah. When you see that aha moment in their eyes and that realization that they got it, like it just clicked, right?
Yeah.
So that piece in that puzzle kind of snapped in before you kind of see them trying to squeeze it and make a life. But the minute they learned a lesson, the piece just snaps in and another one pops out. And that's their next little chess move, the next little piece they need to work on. And when they realize that they're in charge and in control to some degree to manage their reactions and plan accordingly to what they want to live or how they want to live, with whom they want to live, where they want to live, then they can progress in their life. But if they always have this victim mentality saying, well, I don't fit in, the piece doesn't snap in, what's wrong? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with my boss or my environment or my city? When they realize it's not the weather that's going to stop you, because if it's raining outside, there's nothing you can do about the rain or the snowstorm. But you can decide to put on your raincoat, rain boots, and still go for a walk, right? So that's how you empower yourself. You made the conscious decision. Things outside of you, be it weather or people or environments or situations, they're going to happen regardless. But we need to find that raincoat or that winter coat to cover ourselves and weather the storm, if you will, and then go out there and face the world. Because where I live especially, we have to wear a coat for 6 months, and if you don't want to wear a coat, you can't move to Canada, because that's the reality. If you want to be in sandals.
Well, you guys, oh, you froze for a second.
Am I okay now?
No, you're fine now.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So coats and sandals, but the other thing we need to address too is it's not just, weathering, the physical aspects of the climate. It's also the emotional aspects. And I mean, just where you were, you just had the whole trucker convoy.
Exactly.
I'm DC. I just had it all. I didn't let a thing about it phase me one way or the other. I just embraced it for the highest good. And that when I say that, because people use that way too often, the highest good to me is harmony and balance. Harmony and balance to the best of the ability for stability within that person or their life or the basic demographics of whatever, of the collective. So that's what I mean by the highest good. So, I just, we have to look at all of the emotional stuff that's coming with the baggage that everybody else has, and everyone's looking for the secret information. Everyone's trying to go through, wormholes and portals and all these channels, listening to people that are many of them I've seen straight through them for a long time are they're getting paid on the back page, and they're getting their information that you think is the right information when you're looking so far out of yourself instead of getting the information from within yourself. And again, that goes right back to what we started with, people that just want to know what's going to happen to them in the future.
Yeah.
The future is yours to design, but if you don't stop, drop, sit, and stay in this moment and really, really get your feelers up and understand that being an empathic means you are filtering information through every sensory, every physical sensory, and you're learning your spiritual sensories, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to master. How to master? You hone, you skill, you practice. And so in doing that, your choices for tonight and tomorrow and moving forward might be built completely differently.
Absolutely.
And then if you get along that path and you find, I feel like maybe if I turn left, it would be a little bit better. Well, turn left, because your whole guide team is with you saying, okay, well, all right, let's present this, let's present that. and you have the option of going, no, oh yes, oh no. So again, this isn't for the faint of hearts. This
No.
kind of work means I'm dedicated. I want to do this. I want to be the best spiritual being in this human physical avatar that functions and must you cannot, your spirit cannot live right now at this time frame without this physical avatar. So
Yes.
start taking care of it. And so your emotional body affects your physical avatar. It affects everything. Your soul is not outside of you. It is it's literally like a computer source taking everything in, and your spirit's out there being the scout, so to speak,
Right.
getting all the life lessons. And so, if you fall off a horse and you can't get back up and get on it, figure out why.
Yeah.
If you need to sit in a pool of tears, sit in a pool of tears and figure out how to move forward.
Well, the crying
And
is
don't
actually,
hesitate to ask for help.
exactly. The crying is actually really good.
Yes.
Yeah, because it kind of clears the soul in some way, because you realize the emotion came up. And another thing I suggest to my clients is to be patient with themselves.
Yeah.
And give themselves time to absorb the new information, because that's something I had to learn. It's like, okay, I know what the problem is. I'm going to resolve it. I'll do my little formula, fix it, boom, it's done, and tomorrow's a new day. No, it doesn't work that way. It takes time, because even when you pray, you meditate, or whatever method you do it took years for you to come to that point to be conscious of what is it that's holding you back. It's not going to stop holding you back the next day just because you've done a few things. It's your whole soul is kind of like pulling away from the avatar, and you're kind of like going, oh, this is a lot of work. There's a lot of baggage there. Let me go back and reassess it. Maybe I missed something. Let me think about it. Give me another week or two, and let me process that information again. And that's what worked for me. And when you plunge into that activity, that scenario, and you analyze it as an observer and not as a participant, you see it from both sides, right? If someone hurt you or the situation was difficult, put yourself into the situation or the other person's feet, and then you observe with different glasses, different perspective. So I always encourage my clients to have patience. It's something I strive, because I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm more of a fire sign. So let's go, let's move, let's get this done like yesterday. But I tried that. It didn't work. I mean, you can try it. Our clients can try it, but that's okay.
We've got to find what works for us. And the only way to do that is, sometimes it's baptism through fire, and sometimes it's getting your toe hot, and sometimes it's getting your toe cold, and sometimes it's just this, and sometimes it's just that. It's all a lesson. There is no right and wrong way. There is no success and failure. It's a lesson.
Exactly.
So, and it's how you want to work with it yourself, and not worry about what other people think, see, sense, and feel about you. Because the approval ratings are going out the door. We're having all new approval ratings coming in, and those are the ones you set for yourself.
Exactly.
Right? So are you 5-star? Are you 1-star? Where are you in your steps? That's really what it all, and sometimes you have to go back to ground zero and start looking at those things, and know that it's a gradual process. And, you were saying something about, depression and anxiety and all kinds of things. We are on an emotional roller coaster, and sometimes it can feel like that. But, what the symptom board was created for quick fixes and fixes that other people wanted you in. But there are some that have chemical imbalances. I totally get that. I understand that. I've worked with a lot of people like that. I've experienced that with other people. I feel pretty good about being balanced, but I will experience those highs and lows sometimes. And just a week ago, when the energy was changing, literally, you're accepted, you're not accepted. Oh yes, this was going on. And it left me, with tears, shedding tears at night. And I'm not a crier. So some people could take it as, oh, woe is me. This is just too much. I just need to have a physical, release of tears. That's great. But I also knew that it was just a response to so much coming into the nervous system.
Yes.
That there wasn't enough downtime to allow a reboot, or a process
Mhm.
between each synopsis of information that was coming in through my physical avatar. It was yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, okay, oh no, blah, blah, and this was also happening with clients. The other thing I want to bring up is something that you just mentioned, and that is what we are experiencing. So
Yeah.
we are literally walking this walk, right? So in
Right.
order to become better as Zita and as Sandra, we're walking through the same kind of fires that we're working with our clients with, right?
Yes.
We're not going out and getting a degree and then saying, okay, it would be like, okay, they're showing me this. I go out and I get extensive degrees in financial planning. And then you come to me with all your money and I'm like, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. What, who's saying that? My firm is telling me that because
Exactly.
they need X amount of money in this account, X amount of money in that. So
Exactly.
you get them to do that because then you're going to get this little commission, right? But
Correct.
then my finances are like all in one little savings account. What kind of an example am I to asking you to invest your money when I haven't invested mine?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you wouldn't go to a bariatric doctor, and say, I'm having weight issues and so on, and they don't test all the things for you. And then you look at them and they're way overweight and they haven't been tested. And they're telling you you need to do this, this, and that, but they're not walking that walk. So how long are you going to stay with people who are not prime examples
Yeah.
of God's love? And I use that word lightly because God just encompasses a lot of things. It's a word that I couldn't even say for 3 decades
Mhm.
because religion has nothing to do with anything. And I think when we say God, we have shrunk prime creator, source of all that is within ourselves, because we're looking at something that's so big outside of ourselves when every spark is within every part of ourselves. And so we have to turn it back around and say, you know what? I fell 4 times. I fell down. I did this. I did that. I hear you're having some of the same things, and then spirit will tell me what might work for you. It might not be exactly what worked for me. So, all my life people have come to me for advice. And my thing is, I don't give advice. I might suggest maybe what I would do, but I cannot give you advice. So we're not sitting here with degrees. And I mean, my sign says keep it simple because that's how it should be. But we're walking, living, breathing examples of how to get people into the now moment. Go backwards, go forward, go backwards, go forward, get back in the now moment, and to support each other in the next step of life, because it isn't just about you. It's about all the people that contracted to come in to be with you.
Mhm.
And it's so much bigger than you and your ball of tears and your BS that you want to play in. And your BS might last a couple decades. Enough. Wipe your butt, blow your nose, sit down, make a decision to move forward with your life. That's how I feel about it. And I'm one of these, keep it simple. I don't need a lot of hugs and kisses. Let's just get going and get you to where you need to be.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up that.
Where you want to be, where it would feel good to you.
Yeah. I loved your example about the finance because I actually have a finance degree and I worked in the financial industry. So I know everything about mutual
Maybe that's
funds,
why they gave me that example. I had no idea. But okay.
But what I'm gonna do, yeah, the thing is,
Yeah.
your example was fantastic because I've worked in that industry, I know everything about the legal aspects in creating financial products, the risks, the rewards, and I know the details of the products. I have all kinds of licenses to trade futures and options, Canada, United States, and I can do all those things. And people know that around me. So they come to me for advice. And I say, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I will not give people personal financial advice because I know them well enough to know that if I give them information, they're going to take it. If it doesn't work out, they're going to blame me.
Sure.
So I said, listen, here's information on stocks and bonds and gold and silver and this and that, and do your homework. Get out there, do research. Oh, it's too much information for me. Well, if it's too hard for you to do some homework, you shouldn't be investing in those products because when they fail, who are you going to blame? you're not going to blame yourself. You're going to blame me or who's giving you advice. So even though you do have a financial advisor or an insurance provider or whomever this person is, they give you information and advice. Do your homework before you invest, because your example was spot on. They work for a corporation. The corporation says, Zita, I want 10% in bonds, 10% in gold, and 80% in these stocks, be it small caps or large caps. So you're sitting at the front desk and you have a sales objective for the year. And if you don't match it, they let you go, whereas your clients suffer, right? So regardless of the situation or the example, do your homework, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna go see a doctor, make sure when you see this person, they give you sound advice. And if you don't like what they tell you, don't accept it just because they're a doctor or a lawyer or whoever. Get a second opinion, right? How many times you hear that, get another opinion? Or do more research on your own. I know doctors and lawyers hate it when you Google, but you know what? When you walk into that office a little better informed before you meet them, they can't give you that pill for potentially illness you have, because you know your body, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
I know who I am, and you know, especially with a male doctor and a female, and I know how I'm feeling. He can't, right? Because he's not in our body, first of all, and second of all, he's not our sex. So it's always great to do the research. Be informed, be smarter than you were when you woke up this morning. It doesn't mean you have to invest hours and hours and hours, but if you choose to, why not? You're smarter, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your finances, your family, your life, and you can't cover all grounds because there's things that are going to happen. There could be an international financial crisis that every stock market's going to crash, so it doesn't matter how well diversified you are, everything's going to crash, and I've seen that many times. So you need to be aware of the risks and rewards and what are you prepared to accept and not accept. And in the end, maybe you should not invest and go on a vacation, right? Whatever works for you. You got to figure out
Yeah,
your
but
formula.
yeah, but the biggest investment's within yourself. This is all you
Exactly.
got. This is all you got is your
Exactly.
spirit within your physical avatar. And you can't be anything to anybody else if you don't freaking line that up and get it going and know that you are everything and all that there is within the prime course, the prime source creator of original source. And that all this other stuff is a whole bunch of minutia. It's all the layers and levels on top of that pure original source cube of that little onion in the middle of there that's vulnerable, right?
Yes,
And so we
absolutely.
have to take responsibility for this. And we can't continue to follow mainstream and what's, you know, when I worked for physicians back in the 80s, I was with OBGYN, and I remember I worked for six male doctors, one female, and she had the toughest time. And I got a phone call from a client who was having the third baby, morning sickness. And I go in the back room and Dr. So-and so's called and experiencing a lot of morning sickness. It's been about 72 hours, can't even hold down tea. And he goes, well, you know, that's all in their head, right? And
Wow.
I'm such a smart ass. I just looked at him and I knew I wasn't insane. And I had morning sickness for 4 months with my first one. And I just looked at him and I said, yeah, well, why don't you get pregnant and try having a baby and then come to me and tell me about your morning sickness? And so I just literally stood there with the script pad and I said, what am I giving her? You know,
Yeah.
and I said, and by the way, is it okay if I tell her to have some saltines and some ginger tea? Well, yeah, that helps. Because a lot of people just, you know, I'm just saying, we have to stop listening to all this stuff everybody else is saying and doing, and also be aware of those who are out there who are preaching stuff that aren't living it, or they're preaching it because they have a link below for you to buy what it is that they're telling you. So, you know, snake oil, snake venom, whatever it may be that people have got out there that they're selling and doing, and gold, silver, crypto, whatever. I have so many people that are falling into all of that, and that's on them, not me, right? Hey, you go get what you want. If you're called to do that, you do what you want to do. You want to buy a fur coat in the middle of 120-degree weather and wear it, go for it. That's, you got to wear it. I'll just look at you and be like, okay. But we have to go back to our own original source and know that we're fully connected, and we have to be responsible for each and every decision. And if you want to make the best choices in each and every moment, you've got to be in the present. And when I say present, I kept looking around for like something like, because it's a gift. Anything outside of what's right here, right now. If you knew, if I knew, I could say something right now that could set you back or hurt you in any way, I've gone against my sacred law of do no harm. So if I have a thought and it might not be the best interest of the other person, I will talk to my spirit guides. Is that me or is that the egoic side wanting to say something right there? And so I don't want to reach out and bite somebody because I'm not in my own present moment. Because if I reach out and say something that could be harmful or detrimental to someone, and then of course we know the chain reaction from all of that, right? It is my responsibility to be in my present moment, to think of my thoughts, to think of how does it match, to have a dialogue with my higher self, which is me, to know that is what I'm about to say, think, or feel, is that kind and compassionate, right? And, or is it going to be constructive, or is it just best to let that person learn their own lesson through their own choices? And almost 9.5 times out of 10, I'm going with the last one.
Yes.
It's best to just let them do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Period.
What I like to do, if I can, I try to give them information and guide them, and then I let them go. Just to try to change their trajectory just a little bit and offer guidance and let them go. If they go back, or they may go this way, that's up to them. But if they choose to move forward, they will, and they'll change their life. It's up to them.
Well, we have to protect each other.
Absolutely.
We have to protect each other. So we all have our inner child. We all have our, many different versions of ourselves that we're walking around with under this hood, this physical hood. And I want my hood to be all good. And, I have a saying, keep it good in the hood. And I want your hood to be good. And I don't want to create something that would taint that in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to create karma I've got to pay for later because I wasn't in my present moment, mulling things over. So tell me a little bit about what services you offer everybody.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to offer doing an oracle card reading. I thought this might be apropos since we talked a lot about souls and coaching. So this is something that I use. One of the tools I use are oracle cards. I use crystals, meditation, healing runes. So I usually get the deck and I knock it. And so what I'll do for us today and for our viewers.
Is anybody home?
Well, actually, by knocking it, that was funny, is get rid of any previous energy that may have been.
I do cards too, and I'm just like, wow, anybody home today?
That's so funny. It's funny because originally I was gonna do, oh wow, it's always really always apropos. So there's 2 cards that fell, and the first one that fell is called Beginnings. I cherish all the cycles in my life. And the second one is called Wisdom. All I truly need is within me. Isn't that amazing? We just discussed that. I'm not sure how it's going to resonate. So whenever you want to start a new beginning, you're willing to do the change and do the work. You're ready to grow into that tree and create your new branches. And you have the wisdom within. Like we've been saying, we have the wisdom to effect the change, to grow our trees in the orchard we want. How beautiful is that? Isn't that?
That is awesome. And the funny thing is, I pulled a card before we got on, and my card was it went flying out underneath my desk, but it's Divine Blueprint. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, this is telling you that it's more simple than you think, and that God would not make things difficult for you. And that if you tap into the naturalness of your divine blueprint, everything is in your heart. Every bit of information that you need is right there. Wow. It's all there. So those were just 3 divine cards that just came out. I don't do them all the time. I only do it when I'm called to do it. So, I mean, I know that for you, like in your sessions, you also, I call it a toolbox, because it's like
Yes.
someone comes to you and you're like, okay, well, okay, I'm being called to grab the cards, or I'm being called to grab the pendulum. I'm being
Right.
called to go into meditation with this person. I'm being called to write this down before I talk to them. So we have so many different tools in our toolboxes that are, I call them, it's custom blended for each individual person.
Absolutely.
And so, that's what you and I both offer in our services. So if anyone's looking to just to become who you really are, authentically who you really are, these sessions are very beneficial.
Absolutely.
And you'll start somewhere, you may flip to somebody else, you're going to resonate with so many different people. But I always caution, just keep it in the moment, keep it within yourself, wait for the answers. Patience you brought up earlier, and the interesting thing about that is, if I owned a store of patience, I would have, I would just pave a gold. I pave gold everywhere I went, because, it's something that's not sold. It's something that you have to really develop within yourself. So, I always joke around. I went to the store and the aisle of patience was empty, and I'm like, damn it, like, damn it, there was no patience in the pickle aisle. It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
So we do. And again, it's that instant gratification. It's that pre-programming. It's so many different things that have created a disconnection between you and your God source.
Yes.
And so we're not taking our power back, so to speak. We're shedding off all the layers that disguised our power as being outside of us. That's what they just said and came through me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. So I guess with that, we can probably use this as an opportunity to tell our clients that we'll put our description to our websites and products and services in the description below. We encourage you to like and subscribe to help the channels grow, because the more we grow, more we can share with other people our messages, and the more people we can help.
Yes. Yes. And I echo that, sister. I echo
Okay.
that. And this has
been
been
so
very
wonderful.
enjoyable, very enjoyable, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
There was such a pleasant conversation.
Oh my
I look
goodness,
forward
me
to do it again.
too.
I enjoyed this very much. We'll do
Me
this again.
too. Thank
God
you,
bless.
everybody.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.